Hello all, welcome to oratrainings.com. In this session, we'll discuss about functions in Python. We'll try to understand what is a function and we'll see a couple of samples with respect to functions. So what is a function? A function is a block of code which performs a particular set of business logic and provides a result when invoked. And in Python, a function can take arguments or may not take any arguments. So arguments are not mandatory. We also call the parameters, or you can also call the parameters as arguments or parameters. And we can pass any number of parameters. Like during declaration of your function, you can mention the parameter, or dynamically also you have a possibility to send any number of arguments to the function. And we can also design a function with parameter also. Okay, so let us see some samples to understand these particular functionalities. So let me start with my first example. So in this example here, if you observe, there are three functions which I have defined. So what is the syntax of a function in Python is we have to define with a keyword called def, nothing but define, and you have to mention the function name followed by parenthesis followed by colon. This is mandatory. So this is syntax you have to follow. Def keyword followed by the function name and followed by the parenthesis and colon. And you can write a business logic here. So here, if you observe, this particular sample does not have any parameter and it does not have any written parameter. So what it is doing, it is just simply printing the output. Similarly, if you observe the function at line number 4, the only difference is it is taking one particular parameter as an input, but it is also not written anything. So this is a function with one argument and no written parameter. And here what we have done, we just printing the name here, dear followed by name and followed by a particular static information. Welcome to Python functions. And third function here, if you observe line number 7, the same set of function like a greet me with argument 2 name comma topic. So I'm passing multi-parameter, nothing but two parameters I'm passing here. So while declaring itself, I'm telling what is my parameter name. And then here I just have two messages here. One is for the purpose of mentioning dear followed by name and welcome to Python programming. And similarly, and the other one is like the selected topic is a particular topic name I mentioned. Now, so this particular part from line number 1 to 9, we are just declaring it. You're not invoking it. Until unless you invoke it, the functionality will not be invoked. Okay. So now what I'll do is, so line number 11, what I have done, I'm just mentioning that if I just printed a message function without argument, I'm calling a function. This is nothing but invocation of a function. What do you call? Invocation of a function. And the first part, it is called declaration of a function. Okay, it is called a declaration of a function. So you're just declaring a function or you're defining a function. I mean to say you're defining, it's a definition of a function. So in C language, you have a declaration and definition different part, but here you're defining a function because you're defining what is the business logic inside it. That is why we're calling it as definition. And now what are we doing? We are invoking it. You're executing the function, right? So until unless you invoke it, it will not get called. Now let us say what I'll do is I'll just comment it out, these two things, and try to compile now. Try to execute it, I mean to say. Now the program name is display names. Okay. Now here, if you observe, it just invoked only the first one because the other two functions were not called because it is not printing anything what I have written inside that. Okay, so the first one just printed dear all welcome to Python functions, right? Now let us say I'll uncomment both of them and see how it works. I'll just clear the log. Okay, now can you see? So now it says here in this one I passed a parameter value ram, so it is printing dear ram welcome to Python Python function. Similarly, other one it is also printing the extra one because in this I have the extra parameter I passed it. So now here if you observe the syntax is like a def followed by the function name parenthesis and colon. This is for a function without parameter as well as without any written keyword. Okay, let us see other one which is having a written parameter. Okay, so the only difference between the earlier one and this one is we are having a written keyword. So there are sometimes you will be defining a function where you need to perform a calculation and you want to send the output as a value to the calling program, right? So now in this one here, if you observe line number 122, what I have done, I just defined a function with a parameter number no, and simply I'm returning value written no into no, nothing but it is getting a square. So line number 4, I'm invoking the function with this one, and I want to store the value written by this function into this variable. Square value will hold the value of the square of 5, right? So let us execute this one and understand. Python get square. Okay. Now the square of 5 is 25, right? Now let us say I'll try to invoke it again with a different value. I'll say this time square of 7. Of course, we are hard coding them, but later on you can also pass them in a different way, right? A square of 7 is 49. Okay, so now it got invoked two times. One is with the value 5, other one is with the value 7. Okay, now so this is a function with a return parameter. I have defined one more example where here if you observe, I can define functions wherever I want. It is not that I have to define all the function at a stretch at a same place, nothing like that. If you are coming from a C language background where you have to define all the function at a stretch, right, you cannot define wherever you want. Okay, so in this Python, like you can define the function wherever you want. Of course, you need to follow a good practice, like better to define all the functions in the starting. Okay, so but we have a flexibility to find the function anywhere we want. So I just designed this kind of sample. Okay, now in this one, what I'm doing is it is a recursive function. We call this particular sample is a recursive function because you're calling the same function again. You're calling the same function with a different value. Okay, you're calling the same function inside the same function. Now like this get factorial function, inside the get factorial function I'm calling the get factorial again. That is why it is called recursive function. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I just want to calculate a mathematical formula called factorial. So I pass the value of a number, and as per the calculation of the factorial, how it works is like the formula is n into n minus 1 into till it reaches 1. So nothing but simple example is, let us say if you want to get the factorial of 5, it is nothing but 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So this is how the factorial has to work. Okay. Now in this case, what I'm trying to do is I'm calling the same function recursively. If at all the number value is greater than 0, call the function value like this. If it is not greater than 0, if at all it reaches 0, simply return 1. Okay. So based on that, the factorial function work. Okay, now let us invoke this one and try to understand. Here if you observe, the factorial of 4 is 24, nothing but 4 3 2 1, right? 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Let us try to calculate the factorial of 5. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just try to invoke it again. Here I'll just mention it is a different value, factorial of 5. Okay, save it, clear. Okay, now factorial of 5 is 120, right? Nothing but 5 4 3 2 1. Factorial of 5 is 120. Okay, so this is called a recursive function, a function calling itself again, with a different value. Obviously we have to pass a different value, else what will happen is it will work, it will like execute indefinitely. That is why we have to make sure that you pass appropriate value and make sure that you have appropriate exit condition, right? Okay, so this is the example of a function with parameter as well as a recursive function. We'll see the last sample where we want to pass a dynamic number of arguments. There are some requirements where where you're not aware of the number of arguments you want to consider, or you have a dictionary where you have a number value pair kind of concept, right? So in those scenarios, like Python provides this particular functionality where you have to define a parameter with a double asterisk. You just need to mention double asterisk, and I mentioned the parameter name as m args, nothing but multi args. Now here if you observe line number 7 and 8, first time I'm calling a function with 2 parameters, second time I'm calling a function with 3 parameters. These are all name value pairs. It is not individual arguments. You have to pass them with a name value pairs. That's how it works. Okay, so now I'll just execute this one and we'll discuss it how I've designed. Okay, now I'll just say Python multi-args. Okay, so now in the first scenario, I passed 2 arguments. I printed the value of 2 arguments, and similarly, second scenario, I passed 3 arguments and printed them. Obviously, like here, I considered a particular uh, method of passing the arguments, nothing but like I'm expecting that my argument name always start with L and increment by 1. So that is why I was able to print them. If at all, if you have different kind of argument passing mechanism, you have to make sure that you pass the appropriate argument value to your marks. Okay, and I think about this particular dictionary object, I mean to say. Now in this one, what I'm doing is, first of all, I just printed the length of the dictionary argument, nothing but marks. And similarly, I just used a for loop to just print what are the list of values I passed it. So I need to get the name, right? I need to get the index of the value. So what I've done is I prefixed with L, like I just concatenated L plus followed by this index, so that like I can pass this particular X value to marks to get the appropriate name value pair value, right? So that's how I just designed. So try it out. Like so as of now, we have discussed a function with parameter, without parameter, with return parameter, as well as n number of argument, as well as the as well. Also, we discussed about the recursive function. Just write out these samples. Okay. Thank you.